Hey everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. John Green is the other half of the vlog brother Hank Green, who made their success when vlogging was the biggest thing in YouTube. They are also the first to make it into business outside of YouTube, and both of them are also authors. And while I have never read anything from Hank Green, I have read John Green's debut, An Abundance of Catherine, which is really bad. His storytelling relies too heavily on exposition, and it's not even the good kind of exposition, which at least give us more context on the world, the character, or the plot. Most of the exposition were just unnecessary details that doesn't really add anything to the story. I only read that because it was in a second-hand bookstore I can get for cheap, so after that I didn't pick anything else by him. But this is one of the books that got discounted on my regular bookstore anniversary, so I thought, might as well check it out while it's on discount. The book starts in around the turn of the century in 17,000. James Watt, inventor of many things that will eventually create the carbon dioxide problem and the namesake of the Watt unit of power, turned from tinkering with tech and was trying to develop chemicals through alchemy to try to find a cure for a disease that is at the time known as fetiches. The disease took his daughter Jessie in 1794, and now his son also got it. But despite his many attempts at saving his son, he eventually died from the disease in 1804 at the age of 27, close to the average lifespan of people that year. John's great-granduncle Stock Goodrich lived 1900 when the disease was renamed to tuberculosis. But despite surviving the great influenza pandemic that killed about 25 to 50 million in 1918, in 1930 he was diagnosed with tuberculosis and died a couple of months later at the age of 29, when the average lifespan of people that year has gone up to 58. The cure for tuberculosis was found in 1950 and it is now 2025, and our average lifespan has gone to around 72 to 73. But still, in 2023, there is still about 1 million people who die of tuberculosis worldwide despite the existence of the cure. John learned about TB when he and his wife went to Laka Government Hospital in Sierra Leone in West Africa to study about their maternal mortality rate, which at the time was 50% lower before effort was made to help educate childbirth safety, regulation, protection during sex, etc. But around the end of their last day there, John got sick. It's not life-threatening, but it's bad enough that he need to go to the part of the Laka hospital where he met Henry. And before meeting Henry, John's understanding of tuberculosis was this disease that belonged to his great-granduncle times, a disease for underpaid artists whose painting only made money after their death. But meeting Henry introduced him to a new understanding of tuberculosis. He thought Henry was a cheerful little boy that belonged to one of the staff members of the hospital, but no, he's a patient and he's even one of the terminally ill patients because he has tuberculosis. TB is a highly infectious disease that spreads through air, and while Henry TB's bacteria count is not high enough to make him contagious, malnutrition and the tuberculosis stunted his growth and made the antibiotic that the doctors gave him only strong enough to make him healthy if you did not look too much into him. Because if you see him, there are evidence of his sickness on him. Is at his stunted growth where he is a 17 years old young man looking like a 13 years old child. His eyes are also yellow, showing liver failure, and his neck had a lump that shows his failing lymph nodes. And after knowing about Henry's condition, John decided to make some conversation with him. And Henry told him about the treatment for his sickness, the medicine and the injection, how some of it has side effects that hurts and not just the needle, but the worst of it is the hunger. One of the side effects of the medicine is it reduces the appetite of the person who got the medicine, but once that side effect passed, the hunger came. The intense hunger is usually a good thing because that means that their appetite is back, but that's only in a world where there will always be enough food to eat. I think John's unnamed friend is right again here when they said nothing is so privileged as thinking history belongs to the past. The hospital did their best to at least give them 3 meals a day, but it's nowhere near enough for them to recover from the hunger, and they cannot give more because even giving the patient 3 meals a day already means that there is no less food to feed other people. It's because of this hunger that eventually a lot of TB patients ends up stopping taking their medicine. After learning about Henry and a few more patients of TB there, John became obsessed with TB. He read its history, he read studies about it, he found out that New Mexico became a state because of TB, he found that it is partially responsible for World War I, and he found out more about how Sierra Leone, despite being one of the richest countries with mineral, cannot afford food for their sick. It's because it was once colonized by the Brits. And as usual, every country that was colonized by the Brits or by America suffered from infrastructure that was built with the sole purpose to suck them dry. That's why the railroad in Sierra Leone only have a few stops and all of them are from one mine to another. And not only that, Sierra Leone was one of the places in Africa that was the most devastated by British slave market. Then of course, even after slavery was abolished, and I mean actually abolished in 1833, not the fake one in 1803, Africa in general became a ground for Western imperialists, including the assassination of Lumumba by the CIA and also US aid as usual, keeping the corrupt government in power. But even in first world country like America, TB is still a very deadly disease. The bacteria it was named for was one of the slowest growing bacteria. It doubled at most just once a day, but worse, it had such a thick wall of fat that defends very well against our antibody. That's why even when a house or an entire city caught it, they often get sick months or years after infection or even never, because there are just TB bacteria that never go to the active disease stage and stay on the layer of fat forever. And that's not the only thing that makes diagnosis difficult. Like a lot of bacteria, depending on which part of the body is infected, the initial symptom can lead to very different results. The most known one is of course when it infected the lung, because it is the most common since usually TB came to the body through respiratory by breathing it in, but it can affect brain, lymph nodes, your bones, your limbs, your hip, your spine, etc. In Sierra Leone, like a hospital where even electricity and water is lacking, getting any positive diagnosis of TB is often a death sentence. That's why when John asks if Henry will be alright, the nurse and doctors there avoid answering his question directly. For now, I can say that this is a much better book than An Abundance of Catherine, which makes sense since that's the author's debut and this is his latest work. He do still like to use footnotes inside the pages, which is always annoying because it breaks the reading experience. That's why I prefer additional footnotes to be added at the end of the book instead of at the bottom of the main pages. But they are nowhere near An Abundance of Catherine, where there are footnotes scribbled at the bottom of almost every pages. Well, there is not much said in the book about America's responsibility for keeping Africa as a poor nation, no mention of Lumumba assassination, no mention of any alphabet agency involved, no mention of NATO, nothing. But at least the book did mention the one US aid mistake that once became viral. But with that said, it's not like the book is totally uncritical towards America. TB, while like all disease of course affected the poor the most, but it has been known to affect everyone regardless of their social status. Maybe because of it, it has been romanticized so much in the bourgeoisie class. Men think that it makes them smarter and women think that it makes them more beautiful. It is so romanticized that before the bacteria that caused it was identified, they are telling everybody that no black people can get tuberculosis because there's no such thing as smart or attractive black people. Of course, once our understanding of health grows and the TB bacteria was identified, it is now just another disease instead of proof of white supremacy. So the narrative of TB then changed to having TB is proof that filthy non-white people are easier to get TB than the whites, showing how flimsy white supremacist talking points are. But they went with it anyway. Along with Jim Crow laws that is still in practice nowadays in America, America and Canada have a history of using TB as a racial weapon to get rid of Native American and black people from their homes to attend residential schools. And the condition of these schools are so poor that it is easier to get TB than not in those schools. It's effectively a concentration camp for children. Study on TB will continue and we know more about how to identify it and even eventually how to cure it. But the treatment to marginalized group in America for TB and more will continue. I think the author nailed it when he wrote that a big part of why TB still exists is the systematic failure of how these people are treated. Which is such a shame because if the system was fixed and TB is eradicated, it only benefited everyone. While the current lukewarm treatment of TB, especially in marginalized groups, are only creating a super tuberculosis that is immune to the current existing cure for it and even causing other kind of disease. Thankfully, not all hope is lost. Pumeza Tisile, a South African member of Doctors Without Borders, managed to advocate for more affordable new medicine for TB. She fought against the pharma company Johnson & Johnson, against their monopoly of the medicine effect, and won the case. Those more general version of it can be made now, and with this new medicine, Henry actually survived his TB, who at that time has gotten to the final stage and go home to his parents. TB is one of the diseases that could have been eradicated earlier, and it still exists now for the dumbest reason. But as long as people don't turn a blind eye to injustice, it's not too late to make those changes. Now it makes it more hopeless than ever if you just watch the world, especially in the West where the anti-vaxxers are literally starting to make changes to the world. But it has always been a tough battle, and there are always people fighting to make the world a better place. And this great book that managed to show those sides of history and make it easy to go through is also easy to recommend. I give this a 4.25. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.